welcome to today's Zoo to You. My name is Brian, this is Courtney, and we are celebrating World Snake Day here at the Stone Zoo with my good friend Siete. Siete here is a red-tailed boa, also just called a boa constrictor, and he's a really cool snake for a lot of reasons. Siete here, as I said, is a constrictor, which means he wraps around his prey. That's how he's going to be eating. Stuff he likes to eat, typically things like mice and rats. But any small animals, he's probably going to have a good time enjoying those too. Siete here is a nice dull brownish tan color. If you zoom in a little bit on his beautiful scales, he likes to live in the rainforests of South America, Central America, and very southern North America. He's typically only found in Mexico, really. Their coloration helps them blend in. Kind of looks a little bit like tree bark, kind of looks a little bit like dirt. Helps him stay hidden. He is kind of an ambush predator. So he doesn't move around too much. He kind of waits for things to come to him. And then he's going to strike out, grab the prey, and then coil around it really tightly. As I said, he is a constrictor, not a venomous snake. You might see him sticking his tongue out just a little bit. He doesn't do it too much. But that is how he smells. Snakes have a cool organ in their mouth called a Jacobson organ. And it works kind of like our nose does. They use their tongue to gather up air particles, and they press them against the Jacobson organ, and that's how they can tell what's around them. Snakes mostly rely on their sense of smell, and they also can actually sense heat a little bit, but they aren't known for having the best eyesight. Speaking of eyesight, though, if you get a good look at his eyes, you'll see he has vertical pupils. Those are called elliptical pupils. A lot of people think that those are a characteristic that venomous snakes have, but despite having those, he is not a venomous snake, and that is indeed a myth. Now, Siete here is 25 years old, and he's just about 6.5 to 7 feet long, which is a little on the small side for a red-tailed boa. They can grow up to 10 feet, but they typically don't get too much bigger than that. They are, as I said, found in the South American rainforests and Central American rainforests. They are not a currently endangered species, but deforestation is definitely affecting them. So we want to be careful with what kind of products we're buying, make sure we're not hurting animals and hurting their homes like some snakes are experiencing down there in South America. And you can see him moving around a little bit. If you get a good glimpse at his scales, you'll see they reflect sunlight in a very cool way. It's called iridescence. It makes them look a little bit rainbowy. Might be kind of hard to see on the camera, but they are very pretty when you do get up close and personal with them. Siete here is probably about 20 pounds. Not too heavy, but he's pretty much all muscle. As a constrictor, his body has to be very strong, which also helps him be a very good climber. They are semi-arboreal, which means they don't always live in trees, but they will often be found climbing up to, medium heights to get prey if they need to. So his body is good at maneuvering around in the rainforests. Sometimes they'll be found on the forest floor, sitting under logs, bathing in rivers. They're pretty good at getting around in that environment. Now, I think we can open up the floor to any questions if we've had any come in. And we also have some camper questions, I know, for the camper kids who are also watching this.
Yeah. So unlike many Zoo to You videos, we actually have a live studio audience today. So Catherine, who is one of our zoo campers, would like to know, how long is Siete from his head to his tail?
That is a great question, Catherine. It's really hard to tell with a lot of snakes because they don't tend to really enjoy being completely straight. They tend to like to coil up, kind of stay curved around themselves. You can see Siete is not sitting out straight. He just kind of curled across our arms as if they were branches. But Siete is about 6.5 feet long, maybe a little closer to 7 feet. Again, that's kind of our best estimate. We don't know for sure because it's difficult to get him to sit out completely straight and measure him like that.
And Merrick has an excellent question, which is, what is Siete's self-defense?
Ooh, Siete has a couple good self-defenses. That's a great question, Merrick. One, as I mentioned before, is his camouflage. So he's going to blend in pretty well with any kind of tree bark or on the forest floor. It's going to be really hard to spot him. So that'll keep him away from, or that'll keep predators from noticing him, and that'll also keep his prey from noticing him. But he is also a snake, and snakes do have a lot of teeth in their mouth. Now, his teeth aren't venomous. He doesn't have a venomous bite. But he does still have a lot of sharp teeth, and it would be pretty scary to be bitten by him. Any predator that comes by, if he bites it, it's probably going to keep them from, pursuing him any more than they want to.
Brian, can you tell us, what does Siete's skin feel like?
So Siete's skin is very cool. It's actually made of keratin, which is the same stuff our fingernails are made of. So any of you viewers at home or in our live studio audience, if you want to feel your fingernails, that feels very similar to what Siete's skin feels like. His is a little bumpier because the scales are very small, but they're very sleek. They're not slimy at all. They're very dry. Feels pretty much exactly like a bunch of little fingernails.
And we have a few people wanting to know, what does Siete eat at the zoo?
That's another great question. So Siete at the zoo, he eats mostly mice and rats. I think he gets offered a rat once every week. I think Courtney, that is correct. She knows more. She's the one who typically feeds him. So he gets offered a rat once a week. He doesn't always eat it, as far as I know. I don't know how regularly he tends to eat. He can...
In the summertime, he'll eat about every other week. In the wintertime, he can go months without eating.
So snakes have a very slow-paced lifestyle. They have a very slow metabolism. They can go a long time without eating. As Courtney just said, Siete will go sometimes months in the winter without eating. But typically he's going to be getting rats. Out in the wild, it can be pretty much any live animal that's about the size of the biggest part of his body. So if you get a look right here, that's a couple inches thick right there, something like a rat or maybe a lizard. He's going to probably grab those, sometimes birds, sometimes bats. Any live animals that he can catch, he'll be pretty happy.
Can you tell us a little bit about why snakes shed their skin?
I can. So snake skin is very different to human skin. Their skin doesn't grow with them, kind of like ours does. So they have to shed it off in one piece when they kind of get too big for it. So as they grow, their skin will kind of peel off. Their eyes look really cloudy, and their skin looks to look a little cloudy too. Skin begins to look a little cloudy too. It'll then peel off, and the snake kind of wriggles out of it, sort of like taking off a sock. It's really a pretty cool experience. I know we have some videos of our snake Diego doing it, so you can feel free to check those out on the Facebook page.
And speaking of shedding, Steve would like to know, how often does Siete shed?
So that's a good question, Steve, but there's actually not a great answer to it because it depends a lot on things like how much humidity is in the air, the time of the year, how much the snake has been eating. Again, given that it's based on how much they're growing, it can depend on a ton of different factors. Siete actually just shed this morning, so that's pretty cool. He's kind of at his most beautiful right now, most shiny. But snakes tend to shed more when they're younger because they're growing faster, and then as they're older, the time between sheds increases, but there's not really a good way to measure it. I would say on average maybe once every month and a half, but it can be, again, it kind of like with how often they eat. It can be every 3 months, it can be every 3 weeks. So it does vary a bit, but it tends to be as they grow.
So Siete is a red-tailed boa constrictor. Can you explain a little bit about the difference between a constrictor and a venomous snake?
Yeah, absolutely. So the constrictor versus venomous snake is how the snake kills its prey. As a constrictor, he constricts it, which means he wraps around it really tightly. But a venomous snake is going to bite their prey and then inject venom. Now, a lot of people get confused with venom versus poison. And the difference there is pretty simple. Venom is something that is injected into the prey, and poison is something that is ingested by typically a predator. So something like a poison dart frog, you have to eat for it to be dangerous to you, whereas something like a rattlesnake, it can bite you and be very dangerous.
And let's see, I think we've got a question. Are there any venomous snakes that live in Massachusetts?
There are at least 2 that I know of. There is the timber rattlesnake and the northern copperhead. So there aren't too many that live around here, but they definitely are in the state. They typically tend to live in the woods, and they have very good camouflage. A general rule of thumb, if you see a snake, you should just assume it's venomous and stay away from it. There's no really good way to tell just by looking at them, unless you know every single species of snake, which I don't think even the keepers here can claim to do. You really should just assume every snake you see is venomous and probably give them the space they want. They don't typically attack humans, but they are known to defend their territory, and they can get upset if they've just eaten or if they're in the middle of a shed. So give them their space and they won't be too much of a threat.
And let's see, Frankie, who's one of our campers, would like to know if Siete likes people.
All right, so Siete can be, pretty calm around people. It's hard to tell if a snake likes people or doesn't like people. But the fact that he's just kind of sitting here right now, very relaxed, I'm going to assume he's a pretty comfortable position, hasn't moved too much recently. They are cold-blooded, so anytime he's sitting on something warm, like our hands, that's a pretty good experience for him because he doesn't generate his own body heat like we do. So I'm kind of like a heating pad. Courtney's hand is like a heating pad, and he's just kind of enjoying the heat from that right now. Also probably soaking up the sun a little bit.
All right, so I think that's all the time that we have for today. If you guys want to sign off.
Awesome. Well, thank you all for tuning in. Again, I'm Brian, this is Courtney, and this is Siete. Thanks for celebrating World Snake Day with us, and we'll see you again soon.